In this video and in the next one, we're going to get a couple quick wins under our belt, just small, easy ways we can configure Webpack to make it way easier for us, the developer, to actually build applications. In this one, we're going to look at how we can set up source maps inside of Webpack. So let's say I have my add option component and somewhere in there I have an error in my programming. Let's say that I reference a variable that doesn't exist. I'm going to use console.log to print out a testing variable which does not exist. Now, when I go ahead and save things, we're going to notice that right away we don't get an error. We're not going to get an error until handle add option runs. So if I submit the form, you can see now we're getting an error. We're getting an error related to testing is not defined. Now, if we had a big application and we started getting this error, it would be really hard to track down exactly where it's coming from. Now, you'll notice that we get a stack trace as well, and way over here on the right, we actually get a link to exactly where that is happening. But you'll notice that we're on line 22,000 of bundle.js, and the code inside of here looks nothing like code we have anywhere inside of our project. That is because this is the final output from Webpack. This is optimized for performance. ES6 features are converted to ES5. So what we have is not what we wrote. Using source maps, we're going to be able to change all of that. So we're going to be setting up a single property in the Webpack config file to get that done. Down near the bottom, this one is called dev tool. And dev tool gets set equal to a string. And in here, we can specify the type of source map we want. There are actually quite a few different values you can put inside of here. Some types of source maps are better suited for development, others for production. What we're going to go ahead and do is just take a look at all of the options available to us. That is webpack.js.org. We're going to head over to the documentation page. That's where we've been so far in the course. And then we're going to look for dev tool in the sidebar. Sitting right here, I'm going to crack that open and just head right to the dev tool section. So dev tool gets set equal to a string, and there is no default value. Down below, these on the left-hand side are all of the values we can type into that string. And over here on the right, we have various attributes about them: their build speed, their rebuild speed, whether or not they're suited for production, and the overall quality of the source map. Now, this table can be really hard to parse. Lucky for us, they give us a nice rundown on all of the available options down below. Here are a list of the development ones, and down below we have a list of the production ones. For now, we're just focusing on the development Webpack build. We'll talk about production source maps later, so we're going to be sticking with one of these guys. And the one that we're going to be using is this one right here. We're going to be using cheap module eval source map. It's going to give us the best source maps. Those are ones based off of the original source. And it's also pretty quick. So the build speed isn't the fastest in the world, but the rebuild speed is solid. And that's going to be great for our development. So all we need to do is type this right inside of that string, and then we'll have source maps all set up. Right here. That's going to be cheap module eval source map. Make sure to type that out exactly right. I'm going to save the Webpack config file. And before we're going to see any changes over inside of the Indecision app, we actually need to restart Webpack. Every time you change the Webpack config, you have to restart your build, even if you are using Watch. Watch is not watching for changes to the Webpack config. It's watching for changes to the application source. So I'm going to shut it down, restart it, and now the new Webpack build is going to be using that dev tool property. And if I throw the exact same error over inside of the application, this time around, you can see we're getting the same error, on-cut reference error, testing is not defined. But over on the right, we're now getting a link to the add option file as opposed to bundle.js. Now, don't get me wrong, bundle.js is the only file that's still running. The source maps, though, let the Chrome browser figure out where the original line was. If we click this, it brings us over to our file exactly as we wrote it, and it shows us exactly where our error lies. And this is fantastic. It's not only going to do it for errors, but if we're using console.logs throughout the application, testing, it's also going to show us where those took place. So if I go back to the console And I submit the form. Right here, you can see our message prints, and it shows us exactly where that prints. And this is going to be really useful, especially as we create more complex apps and run into more errors. Using source maps makes debugging much, much faster. Now, source maps aren't supported just by Chrome. All modern browsers also support them. I just happen to be using Chrome in this course, so that is the dev tools that we're going to be cracking open and actually exploring. So there we have it. By setting the dev tool property, we can configure source maps with little to no effort. These are great for development. Later on, we'll learn about production. That's it for this video. In the next video, we're going to explore just one more quick win that we can set up with a single property in our Webpack config file.